And so Sony is releasing yet another camera, but this time it is their flagship vlogging camera, and it has a host of new features that are not available in any other Sony cameras right now. And there's one really awesome feature that I feel should be on all Sony cameras. And so in general, this is basically a baby Sony a7S III or FX3 because it practically uses the same 12 megapixel full frame sensor and very similar processing at a lower cost and also a smaller form factor. So let's go ahead and check out this camera. So this one is the Sony ZV-E1. This is part of their ZV line, and so this line is meant for content creators, vloggers, and you can tell right away because this does not have an EVF, and so basically you only have this flip out screen to use. And it does come with a lot of features that are not available even in the flagship Sony cameras, at least not right now. And the one thing that I really want to talk about, I would say the best new feature that I feel should be in every Sony camera is their new dynamic active stabilization. And so Sony cameras, or at least the newer ones, do have this feature called active stabilization. I have it on my Sony a7 IV, and this definitely improves upon the stabilization issues that Sony has had in the past, although it's still not up to the levels of Panasonic or Olympus. However, after seeing this new dynamic active stabilization, it is very, very impressive. And I would say it even edges out the Panasonic stabilization, which is basically the king of stabilization. But there is a major drawback in that it crops in quite a bit. Unless you actually had a wider lens, like, less than 20 millimeters, then you're going to get severe cropping. However, if Sony were able to provide this dynamic active stabilization on other Sony cameras with higher resolutions, like the Sony a7 IV, which has a 33 megapixel, maybe they could minimize the amount of crop that they have to have because they are able to work with more in terms of resolution. And then other things that this camera provides, it has this auto framing feature. So if you wanted to follow people around in a frame, you could do that and it'll reframe automatically, which is really sweet. And then there's other thing that it does is it has this whole new, I would say, like focusing system, even improved upon the Sony a7R V, where it actually sees multiple subjects, like somebody coming into your frame, and it'll refocus and you'll be able to see both of you in focus, which is really cool. And other things that it has in terms of hardware features, it has a new microphone system, which is very similar to this, where you could switch the type of microphone that it has, whether it's unidirectional, omnidirectional, bidirectional. It has that built into the camera, so that's really, really awesome. And then there's many other features as well, like this whole cinematic mode that puts letterboxes automatically, so that's helpful for people who are brand new to cameras and they don't want to do this in a video editor. They can do it in the camera. There's also LUTs that you can apply as well, and there's a host of other features, like the whole menu system is different. So a lot of great things that I feel could be offered in other Sony cameras, because most of the advantages of this camera really comes down to the software features. And I really hope Sony applies these features to other cameras, especially the dynamic active stabilization. And so those are like the main things that the Sony ZV-E1 provides. But now let's look at the areas where I'm not really sure about this camera, and that mainly comes into the price. So if you actually just look at the body alone, it's $2,198 US dollars or $2,200. And if you did decide to add a lens with that, it's going to be around $2,500. And at this price range, you have so many options. So if you wanted to stay in the Sony line, of course, you could get something like the Sony a7 IV. And the Sony a7 IV starts at $2,500. And if you did decide to get a lens like I have, which is the 28-70, you're looking at around $2,700. But the Sony a7 IV offers you many more features besides the new software features, and it goes beyond just a video camera because it does have an EVF, higher megapixel count. So this is going to be better for an all-around person who wants to do both photo and video. And if you didn't want to spend that much and you didn't want to go full frame, then I feel the Sony FX30 is an awesome camera. And this is probably going to be better for most people because of the fact that it is less expensive at around $1,800. And even when you get it with the lens, it's still going to be around the same price or even cheaper than getting the ZV-E1. Plus, since it is a smaller sensor, it does have an APS-C sensor, your lenses are going to be generally cheaper. And if the target market is going to be people who vlog and do content creation, I don't think anybody's really going to complain about getting the Sony FX30. However, the final thing is, if you didn't want to stay in the Sony ecosystem, I still feel at this time the Panasonic Lumix S5 II is the best camera out there in terms of giving you a really incredible hybrid, especially video camera with now great reliable autofocus and so many other features, including this really cool 6K open gate mode, which allows you to shoot content for both widescreen and also vertical. And also the price, it's really incredible at around $2,000 just for a body alone. And if you add a kit lens, it's going to be $2,300. It's simply unbeatable at this price range, and at least for me, this is probably definitely going to be a camera I pick up, even though I do have the Sony a7 IV. And so if the target market is going to be new people who are brand new to content creation, then I really don't know if the Sony ZV-E1 is going to be the best for most people out there. And obviously your usage will vary, but you kind of got to think about like, how are you going to use this not only for now, but for the long term. And in my opinion, at this price of $2,500 or more, I would say you're much better off at looking at options that's going to give you both video and photo capabilities and gives you, I would say, more features geared towards a all-around content creator. And those are my thoughts on the Sony ZV-E1. I really do hope that Sony provides a lot of these new software features in other Sony cameras. I doubt they will, but if they do, it'll make, you know, like cameras like Sony a7 IV even better. So if you actually had any thoughts on this camera or any other cameras that you enjoyed, be sure to leave in the comments area below. And if you want to see more videos on cameras, tutorials, tips, and thoughts, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area below or up here. For serious YouTubers, check out TubeBuddy, the premier tool news at geekoutdoors.com. Get more done today by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below.